Hi, folks. I hope that you guys are doing pretty well. So today is Saturday, the 31st of May, 2025. And in today's video, I have four biblical decisions for you. First of all, I have Psalm 76. I'm going to be going verse by verse. Now, Psalm 76 is predominantly a millennial kingdom psalm, with the exceptions of verses 5 and 10, which are in context for the tribulation period. Okay, so I'm gonna be going verse by verse. Now, aside from Psalm 76, I'm gonna do all this in one video rather than doing it on separate videos because that way the video can probably be a little bit shorter. Okay. Now, I'm also gonna be talking about the third and fourth temple prophecies found in Isaiah chapter 2 verse 2 and also Micah chapter 4 verse 1. Now, these two prophecies here are actually multi-dispensational. They're actually for the church age, for the tribulation period, and also for the millennial kingdom, as you shall see in a moment. Now, I'm also going to be talking about in Ezekiel chapter 48:31, that with the new fourth temple, uh, why is it that in the northward, why is it that, the three guys with the name of Reuben, Judah, and Levi are actually facing northward, okay? And why is it that God put them together, these three guys together? Now, this is pretty straightforward. Um, as you shall see in a moment when I talk about this, the difficult part then, uh, to decipher all the guides will be when you have, um, you know, the other guides with the, with the names of the other children of Jacob of Israel, and to decipher why is to go put them in a particular order. Uh, the other names would be more difficult than these ones because you're gonna have to do some deep analytical thinking with regards to why is it that God spiritually and symbolic uh, have placed um, you know the names of the 12 children of Israel in a particular order. These ones are facing northwards, then you got the ones that are facing to the east and to the west and then to the south, and God has an order for everything. So in order to decipher the other names, these are pretty straightforward. Then you have to think in terms of what the tribe spiritually means to God, symbolically and spiritually. You have to think, I guess, with regards to the land partition that God has given to each particular tribe, what each particular tribe spiritually means to God, what each particular tribe has done in the past for God to place them in a certain direction, either facing northward, eastward, westward, or southward, and things like that. So these three tribes, Reuben, Judah, and Levi, are very straightforward, as you shall see in a moment. But the other ones require deep thought and analytical thinking. So, and you get to think about all the things that I just mentioned. So they will be harder to work out. And then I'm going to be talking about the false prophet of Revelation uh, in in Revelation 13:11, and when the revived Roman Empire is coming in and things like that. So I'm going to be showing you the Bible, the scriptures, okay, and link it all up. So yeah, let's get straight into it, folks. I'll do all this in one video to keep this video as short as possible. Now, just know that I do have the Bible here with me, and that I'm going to be doing Psalm 76, okay? The 12 verses. I'm going to be going verse by verse. Now, just know that in my program, I have written all these verses anyway, so I'm going to be showing you my program, my book, rather than the Bible. I'm only going to show you the Bible when needed, okay? But I do have it handy to show you other things further down the video, okay? So, pardon me, Psalm 76 is predominantly a millennial kingdom psalm, the 12 verses if you like, but verses 5 and 10, where I got the breakdown here, are actually for the tribulation period, okay? Aside from 5 and 10, the remainder are actually millennial kingdom prophecies, all right? So verse 1, um, in Judah is gone known, okay? Now God is, this is of course Jesus, coming for the millennial kingdom. He's of the tribe of Judah, and he's going to be known, okay, when he comes back for the millennial kingdom. So this verse 1 then establishes that Psalm 76 is a millennial kingdom psalm predominantly, okay. So in Judah, God is known. His name is great in Israel, okay. So this prophecy is linked to Zechariah chapter 8, verse 15. So again, it reads, have a thought in these days to do well unto Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. Fear you not. Um, okay, so this is what Jesus is going to be doing when he comes back for the millennial kingdom. Okay, so also it is linked to Zechariah chapter 9, verse 19. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the fast of the 4th month, and the fast of the 5th, and the fast of the 7th, and the fast of the 10th shall be to the house of Judah joy and gladness and cheerful feast. Therefore, love the truth and peace. Okay, so this is going to happen upon the arrival of Jesus' second coming. Okay, now this verse is also linked to Zechariah chapter 14, verse 16, and it reads, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay, so all these prophecies and more uh, are actually linked to verse 1 upon the arrival of Jesus' second coming. Okay, now verse 2. This is also a millennial kingdom. In Salem also is his tabernacle and his dwelling place in Zion. So this prophecy is linked to Zephaniah chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. Now, verse 14 reads, sing, O daughter of Zion, shout, O Israel, be glad and rejoice with all the heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. And on verse 15 it reads, the Lord has taken away thy judgments, he has cast out thy enemy, the King of Israel, even the Lord, is in the midst of thee. Thou shalt not see evil anymore. Okay, so this is going to happen when Jesus comes back to set up his millennial kingdom, or his tabernacle, if you like. And it's also linked to the fourth temple prophecies in Ezekiel 48. Okay, so that's why the Jewish people can rejoice, if you like. Now, verse 3. They break he, in other words, Jesus, the arrows of the bow, the shield and the sword and the battle. This prophecy is linked to many prophecies as to how Jesus will defeat or break the arrows and the bow, if you like, of all the enemies of Israel upon his second coming. I'll give you an example, Zechariah chapter 14, verses 2 and 3. Verse 2 reads, for I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. And on verse 3, then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. Okay, so Jesus, we're coming down with Jesus for this battle in Jerusalem. Okay, it's not in Armageddon. The gathering will be in Armageddon, but then, according to Zechariah, he will then bring them into the valley of Jehoshaphat for the judgment. Okay. Now, this prophecy is also linked to Joel chapter 3, verse 2. I will also gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, like I just said, okay? And will plead with them, therefore, with my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and pardoned my land, okay? Of course, we can add prophecies to this, but I'm just giving you, the main idea with these prophecies, okay? Now, verse 4, thou art more glorious and excellent than the mountain of price. So this is a big compliment for Jesus, if you like. This prophecy, then you can link it to Isaiah chapter 9, verses 6 and 7. as well as Isaiah 54:10. Now, in Isaiah 9, verses 6 and 7, verse 6 reads, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace." Okay. And verse 7, "Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David." So basically, this verse 4 is actually praising and glorifying God. Okay. And because it's praising and glorifying God, then you can link it to this prophecy in Isaiah 9, verses 6 and 7, because for unto us a child is born, and of his garment, you know, um, shall be upon his shoulders. Okay, he's gonna be wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace. So that's why it's linked to Isaiah 9, verses 6 and 7, because it's actually glorifying God. All right. Now, in verse 7 of this Isaiah 9, 6, 7, it reads, "Of the increase of his garment and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David," like I just read, "and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The seal of the Lord of hosts will perform this." So this is why it's linked to this prophecy, because it's actually honoring and glorifying God in what he's going to be doing when he comes back for the millennial kingdom. It's also linked to Isaiah 54:10, and it reads, "For the mountains shall depart and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from thee, neither shall the covenant of my peace be removed, says the Lord that hath mercy on thee." Okay, so we can use this prophecy in Isaiah, to glorify God, how he's greater than the mountains. Okay, like it reads here, on this verse, on verse 4, "Thou art more glorious and excellent than the mountains of pride." Well, if he's talking about the mountains, then you can also use Isaiah 54:10. He's talking about the mountains as well. And of course, there are other prophecies as well, but I'm just giving you the main idea. Now, verse 5 here is actually a tribulation period prophecy. It reads, "The stout-hearted." The stout-hearted, when I looked it up on Google Dictionary, if you like, it means those people that really worship God. Okay, so the stout-hearted are spoiled. They have slept their sleep, and none of the men of might have found their hands. So this is actually interesting, because we know that according to Revelation 13, verse 7, the saints are going to be overcome once the second Antichrist, if you like, the son of perdition, or Leviathan, and also the false prophet arrive. They're going to get rid of all the saints, okay, and the Jewish people will have to flee. And so there's not going to be any more stout-hearted people. They're going to be spoiled because the Antichrist, the second Antichrist, if you like, or Leviathan, who's going to possess the first Antichrist, in other words, the man of sin, he's going to overcome the saints. Okay. So, long story short, is that this prophecy in verse 5, this is a tribulation period prophecy, meaning that the still-hearted, or those having strong faith in God, will be overcome according to Revelation 13, verse 7. And it reads, "And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them." Okay. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. This verse is also linked to Revelation 13:15, and it reads, "And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast." This is Leviathan, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So, the saints are going to be overcome, and of course, in the second half of the tribulation period, the Jewish people will have to flee, but God is going to supernaturally protect them. Now, verse 6 goes back again to the millennial kingdom, and it reads, "At thy rebuke, O God of Jacob, both the chariot and horse are cast into a deep sleep." So this prophecy is about Jesus smiting the enemies of Israel they have come to Jerusalem for battle. He's gonna be putting them to a deep sleep in hell. Okay, and so this prophecy is linked to Zechariah 14:12. Now, they're not exactly gonna be sleeping in hell. They're gonna be alive, but they're gonna be burning. Okay, but a deep sleep meaning that they're gonna be put out of commission, so to speak. All right, and so yeah, this verse here is linked to Zechariah 14:12, and over the page. And Zechariah 14:12 basically reads, "And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem." See, it's in Jerusalem, not in Armageddon. Okay, so the gathering is Armageddon, but then God is going to bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, according to Joel chapter 3, verse 2. Okay, so it's against Jerusalem, not Armageddon, not in Megiddo. Okay, in Jerusalem. Okay, you got to put all the clues together and join all the dots. The gathering will be in Armageddon, but then God is going to bring them to Jerusalem. Okay, now the flesh shall consume them away while they stand upon their feet, and the eye shall consume away in their holes, and the tongue shall consume away in their mouth. So this verse is also linked to Joel 1:15. Alas, for that day, for the day of the Lord is at hand, and as a destruction for the Almighty shall it come. So God is going to destroy all the enemies of Israel. Okay. Now it's also linked to Joel 3:2, and I will also gather all nations. Okay, and bring them. Okay. So God is going to gather them. God is going to, um, gather all these nations that are coming to Israel in Armageddon, in Megiddo, if you like. But then He's going to bring them, the all nations. He will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat in Jerusalem. Okay. And so the battle is not going to be in Armageddon. It's going to be in Jerusalem, in the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they are scattered among the nations and parted my land. Okay. Now this is also linked to Revelation 19:15. And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword. Okay, this is Jesus, that with it he shall smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treaded the winepress of the fierceness of the wrath of Almighty God. Okay. So now, verse 7, thou, even thou art to be feared, that's Jesus, of course, and whom I stand in thy sight when once thou art angry. Okay, so this prophecy in context is about the second coming of Jesus. Jesus is to be feared because he's going to execute judgment. And it's linked to Joel chapter 2, verse 1, uh, which is a prophecy which describes how the Jewish people should tremble when Jesus makes his second coming. Okay, um, blow you the trumpet in Zion and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. Okay, so the Jewish people would tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. Now, another prophecy which can be linked to the fear of God is Joel chapter 3, verse 16. The Lord also shall roar. The fact that he's going to roar, out of Zion, people will fear him, and out of his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake, but the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. So this verse here is also linked to Isaiah chapter 13, verses 7 and 8. Okay. So as not to keep this video long, you can check out this prophecy here in Isaiah chapter 13, verse 7 and 8. Now, verse 8, though this caused judgment to be heard from heaven, the earth feared and was still. Now, the fact that he's saying here, that you, Jesus, caused judgment to be heard from heaven, and the earth fear, in context, heard from heaven, in my view, refer to the tribulation period judgments, as in the seven seals, the seven trumpets, the seven vials, and the three woes, because when these orders are carried out, they are going to be heard, in heaven. Okay, see the book of Revelation. Okay, so it says, though this cause judgment to be heard from heaven. So they are going to be heard in heaven, and it's quite possible that, with all these judgments, you know, that they might be heard also in, on earth as well. It's possible. So that's something that nobody fully knows, but when the seven seals are open, the seven trumpets and the seven bowls and the three woes, it's possible that those living on earth facing all the judgment, these 21 sets of punishments, if you like, you know, that they will be hearing this from heaven. It's quite possible because a lot of things are going to be happening. So just read the book of Revelation so that you can work this out for yourselves. Now, verse 9. When God arose to judgment, to save the meek of the earth. This prophecy can be linked to Joel 1:15. Alas, for the day of the Lord is at hand, and as a destruction from the Almighty shall it come. It is also linked to Zephaniah 3:15. The Lord has taken away that judgment. He has cast out thy enemy, the King of Israel, even the Lord, in the midst of thee. Thou shalt not see evil any more. It is also linked to Psalm 82, verse 8, and also Psalm 98, verse 9. Okay, when God arose to judgment, okay, to side the meek of the earth. Okay, basically, Jesus' second coming, performing all his judgments. Now, it's also linked to Isaiah chapter 13, verse 9. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, cruel both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. As well as Isaiah 13:11, and I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. So, quite a few prophecies there. Now, verse 10 is actually a tribulation period prophecy, and it reads, surely the wrath of men shall prize thee, the reminder of wrath shall thou restrain. Now, it's interesting that it says, surely the wrath of men shall prize thee. In other words, the evil that men do, they're going to prize God anyway. This is actually quite interesting. Now, this prophecy can be linked to Psalm 2, verses 2 and 5, and it reads on verse 2, the kings of the earth set themselves, and rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointing, saying, let us break the bands asunder and cast away the cords from us. Now, the fact that, the kings of the earth and the rulers are taking counsel together against the Lord, in a way, they're actually praising God because they're saying, God, you are almighty and you are all powerful, okay, but nonetheless, we, we praise you with your power, but nonetheless, we are coming against you. So it's kind of like praising God in a way, they're being very defined, and here on verse 3 reads, let us break the bands asunder and cast away the cords from us. Verse 4, he that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, the Lord shall have him in derision. Then on verse 5, then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. That's when God comes back for the millennial kingdom, Jesus, to give him the punishment. So yeah, it's actually quite an interesting prophecy how it reads, surely the wrath of men shall prize thee. The best thing that I could come up with is that, with this prophecy here, that in Psalm 2, verses 2 and 5, that the kings of the earth, in a way, they are praising God, they're saying to themselves, God, you are almighty, but we're coming against you nonetheless. It's arrogancy. Now, this arrogancy here, in other words, that the kings of the earth are coming against the Lord, is probably also linked to Leviathan, and in other words, Leviathan is going to be the one possessing, the man of sin, the first Antichrist that dies with a deadly wound. Leviathan, when he comes back, known as the son of perdition, he's going to possess and kill, the man of sin, the first Antichrist that dies, and is going to possess him. And this Leviathan, then he's the one who's going to cause the revived Roman Empire to come to fruition in the second half of the tribulation period, not in the first half. I will show you the prophecies in the book of Revelation very soon, but once the man of sin dies, the first Antichrist dies, and Leviathan possesses the first Antichrist or the man of sin, that's when the revived Roman Empire will come to fruition. Okay, and then of course Daniel 9:27, the abomination of desolation, the armies that are going to encamp Jerusalem, coming against, the Jewish people. They're coming against the Lord as well. As I do that, it's also linked to Luke 21 verses 20 to 24. Those people that are in Judea flee, to the mountains. It's also linked to the mark of the beast. All these evil things. Also Revelation 19 verse 19. The beast and the kings of the earth versus Jesus plus the saints. So all these prophecies here in this verse 10, you could say, that are all linked to, all these kings of the earth, all the evil ones coming against the Lord in the arrogancy. In a way they are praising God, but because of his power, but they're coming against him because, of his power. So it's actually quite interesting. It could have repercussions with all these prophecies here that I just mentioned here, with the arrogancy. Now verse 11, bear and pie unto the Lord your God, let all that be round about him bring presents unto him that ought to be feared. Of course, it's going to happen during the millennial kingdom. So this prophecy is linked to Zechariah 14, verse 16, if you like. Everyone that is left of the nations which come against Jerusalem, they're the ones that are going to be bringing presents to God. Okay. But yeah, even they're going to go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay. So those nations that remain, and of course the Jewish people and the saints, all of us are going to be in presence to worship God upon his arrival for the millennial kingdom. And the last verse here, verse 12, he shall cut off the spirit of princes. He's terrible to the kings of the earth. Now, of course, this is the judgment that Jesus is going to give them, to all those that come against him. Now, this prophecy is linked to Revelation 19, verse 18, and it reads that you might eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of captains. Okay, so he's going to cut them off, and the flesh of mighty men and the flesh of horses and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. It's also linked to Psalm chapter 2, verse 5. Then shall he speak unto them his wrath, and vex them in his soul displeasure. Okay, so when Jesus comes back, he's going to perform all these judgments on all these kings of the earth and so on. Now I'm going to be moving on to the third and fourth temple prophecies from Isaiah chapter 2, verse 2, and Micah 4:1. Okay, now Isaiah chapter 2, verse 2, it reads, and it shall come to pass in the last days. Notice how days here is got an S at the end, so that's brutal. In the last days, meaning the church age, the tribulation period, and the millennial kingdom. Let me just read the prophecy here. So it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. So Temple Mount is going to be established for the third temple and also the fourth temple, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. So this is a multi-dispensational prophecy here, and it's multi-dispensational because it shall come to pass in the last days. We got plural here in days. So we know that after the Ezekiel war, that's when the Jewish people are going to be rebuild the third temple, and because they're going to be doing this, they are going to establish on Temple Mount, the house of the Lord. In other words, the third temple, above the hills. So this is going to happen during the church age, but also it's going to happen during the tribulation period, because we know, with the prophecy in Daniel and this prophecy here in Isaiah and in Micah, that uh, you know the Antichrist is going to cause the abomination of desolation. Okay, so he's going to be sitting in the third temple proclaiming that he's God. But also it has an application for the millennial kingdom as well, because when Jesus comes back for the millennial kingdom, the fact that we got this third temple, the third temple God is going to destroy it and build a new city and a brand new fourth temple, according to Ezekiel chapter 48. So once the mountain of the Lord is established, okay, in the church age, then it has implications not only for the church age, but also for the tribulation period, like I just said, the Antichrist, causing the abomination of desolation. And then when Jesus comes back for the millennial kingdom, he's going to rebuild in the fourth temple and the new city. So, and Micah reads pretty much the same. It says here, Micah 4:1, but in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. So both prophecies pretty much read the same. And in my commentary here, I put, you know, the last refers to the church age, the tribulation period, and the millennial kingdom. The third temple will be rebuilt after the Ezekiel 38 and 39 war. They cannot rebuild it earlier because Israel needs to be in peace before they rebuild the third temple. The third temple will be used by the Antichrist in the second half of the tribulation period to claim that he is God, and to cause abomination of desolation, as per Daniel 9:27. Also, upon the return of Jesus' second coming, the new fourth temple will be rebuilt, according to Ezekiel chapter 48. Okay, so these two prophecies here are multi-dispensational: church age, tribulation, and millennial kingdom. Okay, then I'm going to move on to Ezekiel 48:31, and it reads, "And the gates of the city shall be after the names of the tribes of Israel." Okay, three gates northward, one gate with the name of Reuben, the other one with the name of Judah, and the last one with the name of Levi. So notice the order. They're facing northward because they're worshiping God. Okay, so they are looking up, if you like. Now the fact that you got the tribe of Reuben, he's the first child born, and we know that according to God, the first child, the first fruits are holy and should be consecrated unto God. That's why it's right here. Judah, of course, Jesus is the first fruits of the resurrection. Jesus, of course, of the tribe of Judah. And so they are first, okay? And Levi, they are the priesthood, the Kohanim of God, the priesthood. And so these are all first. This is why they are facing northward as if worshiping God. And they are symbolic, and they have symbolic and a spiritual representation, you know. Now let me just show you here my commentary. Now Reuben is a firstborn child of the 12 tribes of Israel. In a way, he and his tribe are the first fruits of God. He was born to Leah, and his name means seer son. God said that the firstborn must be consecrated to him. Okay. Judah is the fourth son of Leah. His name means now I will praise Yahweh. Jesus is from the tribe of Judah. Jesus is the first fruits of the resurrection. Okay. Levi is the third son of Leah. His name means join. They represent the priesthood or Kohanim, and God is their inheritance. So these three guys, with the names of Reuben, Judah, and Levi, are symbolically and spiritually attached to God's natural order, to what belongs to Him as a sovereign God. These guys face northward as he's looking up towards God to worship the Father, our God. Okay, these are very straightforward to work out. But then when you got the other names of the children of Israel or Jacob, they're going to be a bit more difficult to decipher as to why God has placed them in a particular order. Of course, the others facing west, east and south. Now, God has a purpose in everything. If He's done this with purpose, He also has a purpose for the other tribes. Okay, the street guides um, facing each direction. North, south, east, and west. To work out as to why God has placed the other sons of Israel in a particular direction, it's gonna be more difficult than this, which is pretty straightforward. It's gonna require deep analytical thinking as to why God has done that in the particular order. I'm pretty sure it's symbolic of a lot of things and spiritual as well. Things like how God has partitioned throughout Israel. Uh, the land partition of the 12 tribes of Israel. How God has given each tribe, a particular land in a particular location. How they have behaved, as a tribe. That should also be taken into account. What the name of the tribe spiritually represents to God, uh, and things like that. It requires more analytical thinking, what they have done in the past and things like that, especially when the 12 children were born, and what they were doing, historically in those sites when they were alive, and what that means spiritually, symbolically to God. So there's a lot of things that need to be taken into account to think about as to why God is placing, uh, you know, the tribes in a particular location. God has an order for everything, so that's gonna require, a lot of thinking. So yeah. So anyway, let's move on to the last thing that I wanna talk about today. Now, I want to talk about the false prophet or Revelation in chapter 13:11. Revelation, I'll show you the Bible in a moment. Revelation 13:11 reads, "And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon." Um, verses 13, 12 to 17 are all about the false prophet and what he's doing to deceive the inhabitants of the earth. Okay, so if you read the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verses 12 to 17, these are about this false prophet that's coming on the scene. And when Jesus comes back for his second coming, he's going to punish the false prophet under Revelation 19, verse 20. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast. So it's going to be the false prophet who's going to deceive people with the mark of the beast and then worship his image. This both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. Now, the revived Roman Empire in the second half of the tribulation period and the Revelation 13 verses 1 to 8. This is Leviathan and Isaiah chapter 27 verse 1, and also Psalm 104 verses 26 and 27, or even the son of perdition and the second Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3. What's going to happen is that Leviathan will possess spiritually the man of sin, or the first Antichrist, after he's killed with a deadly wound, according to Revelation 13, verse 3. Finally, the devil or the dragon uh, will give his authority to Leviathan, or the son of perdition, to exercise his authority for 3.5 years, or until the end of the tribulation period, according to Revelation 13, verse 4. Finally, the devil will be punished by God under Revelation 20, verses 1 and 3. He will be bound in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. And I'm going to show you something in the Bible, um, Revelation 13, to finish up, um, this video. And I'm going to be giving you a bit of an explanation with these verses, okay? Now, it reads here, okay, so head over to Revelation, okay? Revelation 13. "And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise out of the sea." This is Leviathan, like I just told you, okay, in Isaiah chapter 27, verse 1. having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horn 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. The fact that it's got 10 horns, think of that prophecy in Daniel, how he talks about the revived Roman Empire, with the 10 toes, the 10 toes representing the 10 horns. Now, this prophecy here in Revelation 13:1, this Leviathan, this is when the revived Roman Empire is going to happen. It's not going to happen during the first half of the tribulation period. No, it's, it's going to happen in the second half, because quite clearly says here that when the first Antichrist dies, if you like, then the second beast rises up. This is Leviathan, okay? This Leviathan of second beast, when the first Antichrist, which is known as the man of sin in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3, when he dies, Leviathan is going to possess the first Antichrist and is going to revive him alive, okay? And when he does that, that's when the revived Roman Empire happens in the second half of the tribulation period, okay? Verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. See? You know how you got the statue outside of the UN in New York, looking like a leopard? And his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So the dragon, the devil, is actually giving power to the second Antichrist or Leviathan, okay, to cause the revived Roman Empire to rise, okay. So this is a revived Roman Empire here on verse 2, rising up with Leviathan and the dragon, the devil, giving him the authority to do so, okay. Verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as if he were wounded to death. This is the first Antichrist dying, and his sterling wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast, okay. And they worship the dragon which gave power unto the beast. In other words, the devil gave power to the beast. And they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? Okay, because it's going to, the Leviathan is going to possess him, and he's going to be revived, if you like. Verse 5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue for 40 and 2 months, in hours 3.5 years. This is the second Antichrist or Leviathan or the son of perdition on verse 5 here. Verse 6, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and then they dwell in heaven. Verse 7, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints. Okay, so the second Antichrist or Leviathan or the son of perdition, he's going to overcome the saints, like it says here. And power was given him over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. Okay, so he's going to be controlling the world, basically. And then let me get up here. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. So basically, God knows who's going to be saved and who isn't, and those that are not in the book of life will worship the Antichrist. Okay, if any man have an ear, let him hear. Verse 10, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the passion and fight for the saints. Verse 11, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. See, this verse 11 here is a false prophet, okay? It's not talking about the second Antichrist, because he's saying here quite clearly, and I beheld and another beast coming up, okay? So aside from this Leviathan, okay, so aside from this Leviathan that is rising up here, and I stood here on verse 1, I stood upon the center of the sea and saw a beast rise out of the sea. This is Leviathan, this is the second Antichrist, okay? So this is the first one that rises up in the second half of the tribulation period. In other words, the second Antichrist or Leviathan. But the other one here on verse 11, the other beast, that's the false prophet. Okay? And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. Okay? So that is the false prophet right there. And he executed all power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. So this is a false prophet again. So the false prophet, he's going to exercise all the power of the first beast before him. He's going to deceive the earth and then that dwell therein to worship the first beast. He's going to, as a false prophet, he's going to deceive the people so that they end up taking the mark of the beast. Okay? Verse 13, and he does great wonders so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. So these verses here from 11, all these verses 12, 13, and 14, notice how he says, and I behold another beast with two horns. That's a false prophet. What else is he doing? And number 12, he's going to be exercising power, okay, deceiving the earth. What else is he doing? And on verse 13, he does great wonders, okay, fire coming down. That's not this is the false prophet. This is not the second Antichrist or Leviathan. This is a false prophet doing this because in context, and another beast coming out here on verse 11. What else is he doing on verse 12? And he's doing this. What else? Verse 13, and he's doing this. Verse 14, and he's doing this. So this is all the false prophet in these verses doing all this stuff, okay? And this false prophet here is also linked to Revelation 19, verse 20, okay, when Jesus punishes a false prophet, puts him into the lake of fire and brimstone, okay? And verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. This is also the false prophet. And the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed. This is a false prophet as well. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in the right hand or in their foreheads. This is a false prophet as well, that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. This is a false prophet. He is a wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 636. So this is the Antichrist. So verses 11 all the way to 17 are all about what the false prophet is going to be doing. He's going to be introducing the mark of the beast and deceiving people. And this verse 18 here is for the second Antichrist, or the son of perdition, or even Leviathan, according to Isaiah chapter 27, verse 1. So I hope that you understood this, because if you don't read this carefully, people are going to be thinking that this is actually, verse 11 here, this is actually the Antichrist or the second Antichrist, Leviathan. It is not. You got to read this very carefully. Verse 11 to 17 is talking about another beast, okay? Because the context began here, and I stood upon the center of the sea, and I saw a beast rise out of the sea. This beast here is, of course, Leviathan, and he's going to be causing the, of verse 2 here, the revival of the Roman Empire, if you like, okay? And I saw one of his heads go wounded and so on, okay? And the devil gave him power, okay? So this is talking about the second Antichrist, but when you get to verse 11, it's talking about a different beast, another one. And this here is actually the false prophet, okay? and he had two horns because it's a different description. Okay, he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. So the false prophet has these two horns. That's his description. But the Antichrist, the second Antichrist that's rising up to take over the first Antichrist, he's got a different description, doesn't he? He's got 7 heads and 10 horns and so on. He's the one that's going to be causing the revived Roman Empire. So he has a different description compared to this second beast. This one has only 2 horns. This one has 7 heads and 10 horns, okay, and so on. So this is a false prophet. And the false prophet, not the Antichrist, is going to be doing all these things, introducing the mark of the beast from verse 11 all the way to verse 17. These are all the things that the false prophet is going to be doing, because he's the one with the 2 horns. He's the another beast, okay? And it's him that is going to be doing all this because in context it reads, and he's a false prophet. Verse 12, and he's going to be doing all these. 13, and he's going to be doing all these wonders. And he's going to be deceiving them, with miracles. And he's going to be doing all this on 15. And he's going to be introducing the mark of the beast on 16. And on 17, you can buy and sell, okay? And then the wisdom is that, let him understand that the number of the beast, that was the Antichrist, is this 600 score and 6. Okay. So yeah, that's it, folks. Almost an hour for biblical decipherings. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll talk to you all later.